This is going to be a weekly recap from the 27th of March to the 31st of March. And I had a total of 8 trades. This was a complete turnaround from the past few weeks. I ended up making 14 bucks, but I like how I scored 100 in terms of did the setups work or not. I just didn't trade as well as I could have. And that was the $1,500 of trading volume, dollar volume. Out of those 8 trades, five of them worked out, and one of them really worked out. Let's go ahead and start with the first trade, which is VORB on the 27th. So already here, the 27th is here. Not a very significant day other than the fact that it did open right here, right around this nice round number of 80 cents for maybe a breakout and a gap fill right here. Okay, so it is way back here. I was in at 946 at 65. And this was a morning panic bounce play, slow morning panic bounce play, and a trend line break. So let's look at 946 at 65. So I was in it right here, 946 at 6, right here, 655, right around here is when I got in. Why? Well, it did not do the break above 80. It sold off, and then it broke this downtrending trend line that I drew from these two candles, and once it broke past it, and it was also breaking above this tiny range, which was roughly 65. I got in it for that reason, for a move towards a VWAP, and I did get out of this one 953 at 66.5 basically. 953 was right here, so I sold my last piece here, and my average was 6.5, so right around here. Well, I really hope my voice isn't going to already start cracking. I know it's pretty late at night, but I really gotta do this. And yeah, this was it. It essentially just didn't really uptrend all that much, but it never broke this level here, the day low. And it did eventually get to VWAP. This could have been something where I could have held on, risking the day low in theory, and that would have allowed me to maybe have sold at my goal, which is VWAP. Let's just see what a sell at 71 would have been, just to get an idea about how potentially profitable it was. And yeah, that would have been nice. A little under 10% their best case scenario. Let's look at BEMA on the 29th. If I can type it right. Okay, the 29th is going to be right here. And did I type that right? BMEA. Nope, I have that wrong. All right. Yeah, so nothing too crazy. It just had a second day above the first run up. So, definitely room for potential. And that is going to be this day right here. Was in at 947 at 3087, and this was a symmetrical triangle, multiple resistance holds. So let's look at 947 at 3087. 947 was right here when I got in. So right here, this green candle before this wiki one at this 3087 level. Why did I get in this? I got in this because it was a symmetrical triangle. So you can see one part of it right here. And then I also had something, I'm going to guess something like this, potentially. And what was essentially happening is that it was breaking the upper part of it. So I thought I could break above it in uptrend. And it was also looking like it was just holding briefly under VWAP, and it could try to regain itself. And then I think the previous day high, which was 31.54, that was also holding. So it was holding the previous day high for the most part, and it was breaking above the symmetrical triangle. And then I think actually for this symmetrical triangle, I would have had something based off of here. Yeah, and then I was in it for that break past it, and then, with the thing that it's just slightly under VWAP and holding above the previous day high, so it could be something that could turn around. Actually, this setup did not really work out super nicely. It did uptrend, but This ended up just being like a higher low setup where it just has a panic and then it bounces and then a higher low. This will be like a very profitable setup when you consider a breakout above VWAP, but not really a symmetrical triangle. So I'll actually just downgrade it to yes, because it didn't just sell off, but it wasn't like crazy. Because that was the setup I was going for. And I did get out of this one the next minute at 31.12. So 9:48 was right here. 31.12. So right around here is when I got out. And I just didn't like the price action. Something just fell off with this one. Yeah, it didn't break the day low and it worked out when it broke above VWAP, but in all purposes, this thing was struggling to get above VWAP and it sold off. But once it did break above it, it did do a nice move as high as 36 price point. So that's pretty cool. Let's look at the next one, which is OSCR on the 30th. 30th is going to be here. Not too bad. It almost looks like a breakout over the 685 level, the first Green Day top. Right here is the 30th. I got in at 940 at 661 and a half. Resistance breakouts. 940 is going to be right here and the 661 and a half price point. So right near the top of the wick. Why did I get in this? It was this resistance level of 660 that it was breaking above for the first time. Also holding above VWAP, which is ideal. I do like how, it's at a pretty important point. It had a sell-off, wiped out some sellers maybe, and then it regained itself above VWAP. And then on top of that, when it was breaking above 660, I was interested in it for that reason. I did get out the next minute at 662. So right here, 662. I just think I didn't feel too comfortable with the way this one was moving. I think it was something where I thought it would break above 660 and then just shoot up crazy. And that is the lesson of this week, that slow forming setups will work slowly, just like that previous setup with how do I say it? Yeah, BMEA. It did take a while for it to work out, and this one also took some time to break above 660. And what happened was is that it did take its time to get as high as $7.10, or maybe 6.91 would have been a bit easier to have potentially have gotten to sell into. Just under 5% with that one. Yeah, definitely could have been a lot more profitable with this one. I wasn't happy with the way I traded because it just didn't really have a purpose of selling. It didn't, like break my risk level, which would have been VWAP, and it did work out slowly. That is a lesson. I do need to realize that setups that take a while to form also will take a while to play out if it plays out. Let's look at SCYX on the 30th. 30th is going to be here. Big green day. Nice breakouts, although a little too far away from this range right here. 30th is going to be this day. I was in at 1006 at 269 and a half, and this was the inverse head and shoulders. So 1006 was going to be right here at 269 and a half. So I got in it right here. Why? Inverse head and shoulders. Shoulder, head, shoulder. Goal is VWAP, and I did sell this one the next minute, 1007, and that was at roughly the same price point, 269. And what happened was is that I got in at 1006 because it was looking like it was going to play out and break above 270, but when there were just so many sellers at the ask, I got out of it for that reason. But I did trade it once it actually broke above 270, so I had a little bit of a confirmation, and I got in at 1008, but now at a higher price point at 271 and a half. So I got in it right here on this little wick at 271 and a half. Same setup now, actually above 270, or at least I broke above it, briefly wiping out all the big sellers. I got it at, excuse me, I got out at 10.11 at 279. So I like how I held on to this one a bit longer, but I still need to get better. I sold at 279 right here, and it never broke above VWAP, which would have been 289. But yeah, I gave it a good try. What happened was is that it did get into the 280s, and VWAP was 289, and it was just kind of showing top in price action, and I got out of it. It did try here to get closer to it, getting as high as 288, but never got to 289, or best case scenario, break above VWAP 289 and then really make a move to the 290s and perhaps even try $3. So it was a good attempt for what it was, and it did actually break above VWAP much later. Inverse head and shoulders again, shoulder, head, shoulder. Here was an attempt, lower high, and then a lower high, head and shoulders. You can call this shoulder, head, shoulder, and it breaks the day low. Maybe a dip buy once it actually starts turning around because it wiped out all the sellers, and then eventually it broke above 260 and made a move towards VWAP. So yeah, that's definitely something that I can try doing. I need to get better at holding setups for longer than 10 minutes. I think that's something I need to get good at, because all of the people who make money consistently day trading as their career, they have a lot of trades that are just more than 10 minutes. I need to do better in that sense. I shouldn't try to fight the odds with that. Let's look at VORB on the 31st. I have it saved. That saved 2.5 seconds. Right here, nothing too crazy other than the fact that it did do a confirmed break under the 40 cent level. Right here is the 31st. I got in it at 933.20. Morning panic bounce play, gap down. So let's take a look at it at 933 at 20. So I was in it right here at 20. And what happened, this thing had a gap down. It doesn't look like much, but this was actually like a big sell-off, closing at 32, and then it opens at a very low price point at 19. So what happened was is that it just opened, I think, like 40% down on the day because of bad news. And then it was one of those things that I've traded before with OTCs where it just opens really low, and then I wanted to just immediately start bouncing and make a move towards the upside because it just went through a whole bunch of selling. I got out 935 at the same point, and what happened was is that I was watching it, and once it broke above 20, I got in it at 20, but it didn't like continue to shoot up, so I just sold 2 minutes later because I didn't like how it was just not really going up the way I thought it would. Nothing wrong with that, and I did try again at 937. I guess I saw something better in the price point. I was in at now 20.95, so almost 21 right here. So I got in it because it was, actually breaking above the top, which is 20 and a half. Not the best entry, but I got in with confirmation, just like that other setup, that inverse head and shoulders. And I got out of this one at 940, my average 216. So 940 was right here, and my average was 216. So right around here, pretty good sells for the most part. I had a trend line, and I didn't like the way it was uptrending. It was kind of sketchy, and I did manage to sell a large position at, I think, I forgot the price point, but it was pretty high up there before I had this big sell-off right here. And this ended up being a good try for what it was. Let's look at the last setup, which is YMAB on the 31st. Right here, first green day, very simple, daily chart right there. I like trading stuff like that. And I was in at 10.11 at 487, and this was a bull flag. 10.11 was right here, 487. I got in it right here. Why? Kind of doesn't look like one, but if I zoom out, I was in it because it looked like a bull flag. And this goes with the lesson that if it takes a long time to play out, it probably took a long time to form itself in. I got in it right here because it was not just looking like a potential bull flag and a turnaround. I also held above VWAP, which was nice. And I think that was my risk level. I got out the same minutes. I held on to this for 17 seconds at 483 and a half. So right here, I just probably didn't like the price action and it felt too toppy. Yeah, very similar with the other setup. I wanted it to break out and continue going. So when it was just trading back and forth, I got out of it. It did break under VWAP, but once it actually did play out, and I guess I can draw, a hindsight 2020 downtrending trend line. Yeah, once it broke above it and regained itself above VWAP, it did slowly uptrend from, like, let's just say $5 as high as 598. Let's just see what it would have been like if I sold at 575. And then I would have been in at 15% move. So there was still a lot of opportunity. It eventually worked out, not necessarily when I was in it, because it did break under VWAP and then regain itself. And after that, it played out. As it for this week, there's definitely a lot of things I need to keep getting better at. I do like how I try setups again, like the same setup, but when it looks better. I do like seeing how I try, and then if it doesn't work out right when I'm in it, I do it when it does show that it's working out, like a confirmation. Even if I don't get in at the best price point, I think there's a trade-off that is worth doing in some cases. Setups that take a long time to play out, like this one, I thought it was turning around. It didn't work out, but even if it did, it could just do it so slowly, like it did here. And sometimes I just think it's going to do it and then just shoot straight up and then halt or something crazy like that. If it doesn't trade like that, if it doesn't trade quickly, if it doesn't, make the pattern quickly, it's probably going to take longer for it to play out if it plays out. And I need to keep that in mind. I also need to keep working on holding on setups longer than just 5 minutes or something tiny like that. And hopefully that can help me be a better trader. That's it for this weekly recap.